This isn't about how much gold exists. It's about whether anyone can prove it belongs to them, and on April 1, the most powerful bank in Europe said, "Not good enough." That statement didn't refer to purity, or weight, or even vault security. It referred to title, the legal proof that gold isn't just stored somewhere, but belongs to someone, clearly, cleanly, and without dispute. Here's what most people miss. Gold isn't a commodity like oil or wheat. It's not priced by yield or harvest cycles. Gold is a legal title, more like a deed to real estate than a barrel of crude. Think about it. You can stand in front of a ton of gold in a Zurich vault, but until it clears 3 separate legal checkpoints, it is not institutionally deployable. Not for collateral. Not for settlement. Not for reserve accounting. First, LBMA Good Delivery Status, the global standard for institutional-grade bars. It certifies weight, purity, and hallmark, but crucially, it's the minimum legal threshold for being treated as fungible money in wholesale markets. Without it, a bar is physically perfect and legally inert. Second, registration in a national gold registry like Italy's or Germany's, which tracks sovereign claims, debt covenants, and export controls. This isn't administrative housekeeping, it's where legal liability lives. If Italy pledges gold against sovereign debt, that bar cannot be reallocated without triggering contractual breaches verified only in Rome's registry. Third, lien-free certification, proof that no court, creditor, government, or arbitration panel has a prior claim on that specific bar. Not just no loans. It means no pending tax liens, no environmental sanctions on its smelting origin, no contested inheritance claims, all verified through local courts and notaries. These aren't formalities, they're firewalls. And crucially, they don't talk to each other. There is no universal gold title registry. No global DTCC for precious metals. Ownership is proven, never assumed, through paper trails. The bill of lading, which proves movement. The assay certificate, which proves identity. The vault receipt, which proves custody. None of these documents are standardized. None are interoperable across borders. A bill of lading valid in New York may be rejected in Singapore because it lacks EU/EIDAS compliant digital signatures. An assay accepted in London may fail Frankfurt's audit because it omits the ISO 17025 lab accreditation code required by Japan's FSA. A vault receipt listing, allocated but unsegregated gold, gets flagged unless that bar is individually numbered, photographed, and logged in the vault's certified ledger. The World Gold Council estimates only *17% of all above-ground gold holds LBMA certified title, the de facto standard for institutional use. That means 83% over *200,000 tons lacks the legal passport required to move in global finance. That's less gold with clean title than the total amount held by all central banks in Africa combined. So when we say gold reserves, we're often describing records, not rights. When we say gold-backed finance, we're assuming chains of custody that rarely exist in practice. That gap between physical presence and legal enforceability isn't theoretical. It's operational. And it's growing. Because gold isn't failing as a store of value. It's failing as infrastructure. Not because it's scarce, but because its ownership is unverifiable at scale. ECB data shows average title verification now takes 4.7 business days, up from 1.2 in 2022. Every hour of delay costs global markets an estimated $82 million in frozen liquidity. And every bar stalled in verification blocks $500 million in repo trades, because gold-backed repo markets require daily title affirmation. So when the ECB said, "Not good enough," on April 1, it wasn't rejecting gold. It was rejecting the illusion that possession equals title. And that distinction between a rock and a deed is where the entire system now hinges. Because the price ceiling on gold isn't set by miners or central banks. It's set by lawyers, notaries, and vault auditors. It wasn't announced in a press conference. It didn't move markets that day. And most financial journalists missed it entirely. But on April 1, 2025, the European Central Bank quietly updated Annex 4.2.3 of its collateral manual, a 2-sentence revision that instantly transformed gold from a trusted reserve asset into a legal choke point. Prior to that date, gold pledged at the ECB needed only one thing to qualify as collateral: LBMA Good Delivery Status. That certification confirmed purity, weight, and hallmark, and for decades, that was enough. No questions about who owned it before. No audit of past liens. No scrutiny of transport history. Possession was treated as near enough to prove. Then came the new rule. It reads, verbatim, **, gold bars must be accompanied by notarized chain of custody documentation verifying unencumbered title for the preceding 12 months. Let that sink in. It didn't raise the purity bar. It didn't demand more vault security. It demanded proof not of what the gold is, but of who it belonged to, and when, and under what legal conditions for a full year. And crucially, that proof had to be notarized. Not certified, not attested, not stamped by a vault manager or assayer. Notarized meaning a licensed, jurisdiction-specific legal officer personally verified the authenticity and legality of every link in that chain. That requirement doesn't exist in the U.S. Federal Reserve's collateral framework. It doesn't exist in the Bank of England's rules. It doesn't exist in Switzerland's. So gold that cleared instantly in New York or London suddenly stalled at Frankfurt's door not because it was impure or misplaced, but because its paperwork wasn't notarized the right way * by * the right authority, under EU-compliant procedure. This wasn't theoretical. Within 72 hours of the rule taking effect, dozens of submissions from major European banks were held in review. Not rejected, not yet, but pending. Because producing a notarized 12-month chain isn't like faxing a certificate. It means locating bills of lading from 3 different jurisdictions each, requiring separate notarial validation. It means retrieving assay reports from labs whose digital archives expired 6 months prior. It means confirming under oath that no court, tax authority, or sanctions body had placed a claim on that bar at any point in the last 365 days. And here's what confirms this wasn't bureaucratic overreach, it was operational triage. In its May 19 Financial Stability Review, the ECB itself stated the rule was triggered by rising concerns that * investors seeking physical delivery could face trouble sourcing and transporting appropriate physical gold. Notice the word appropriate. Not available, not pure. Appropriate meaning legally fit for purpose, meaning verifiably unencumbered, meaning provably theirs. That phrase, sourcing and transporting appropriate physical gold, is the ECB's own admission that the bottleneck isn't in mines or refineries. It's in the notary's office. It's in the registry clerk's inbox. It's in the gap between a Swiss vault receipt and a German court's evidentiary standard. So April 1 wasn't the start of a crisis. It was the first time the system demanded proof and discovered how little of it actually exists. The gold was there. The vaults were full. But the legal passport? Incomplete. Unverified. Non-portable. Which means the price ceiling on gold isn't set by miners or central banks, it's set by lawyers, notaries, and vault auditors. And on April 1, the most powerful bank in Europe drew a line not in the sand, but in the margin of a legal annex. A line that exposed a global provenance shortage. The inability to legally verify clean ownership fast enough to serve as functional settlement infrastructure. That shortage didn't begin on April 1. But that's the day it stopped being invisible. It wasn't theoretical. It wasn't delayed. It happened in real time, in real places, with real consequences. 3 weeks after the ECB's April 1 rule took effect, the paper trail broke not once, but in 3 distinct, documented ways. First, Rome. In early April, Italy proposed declaring its national gold reserves property of the people. The ECB intervened immediately, not to debate sovereignty or valuation, but because the legal transfer would violate existing sovereign debt covenants. To reassign title, Italy needed to prove no prior claim existed on those bars for the preceding 12 months. It couldn't, so the proposal stalled legally. Second, Frankfurt. In Q1 2025, the ECB's collateral desk rejected 42 individual gold bars submitted by a major European bank. All were LBMA Good Delivery certified. All were physically intact. All were stored in approved vaults. They were rejected for one reason only: missing notarized chain of custody documentation covering the prior 12 months. This wasn't a warning. It wasn't a request for resubmission. It was a hard stop, confirmed in the ECB's Financial Stability Review as evidence of trouble sourcing and transporting appropriate physical gold. 42 bars, 1 vault, 1 rule, 1 failure point, the notary's stamp. 3rd, Amsterdam. In mid-May, Dutch pension fund DSM Nederland delayed €1.20 billion in planned gold allocation cited by Reuters. The reason? Not market volatility, not storage costs, not geopolitical risk. Their words: title verification lag. A direct, public admission from one of Europe's largest institutional investors that legal clearance, not price or physical availability, was the binding constraint. They had the capital, mandate, and vault space. What they lacked was legally portable proof, verified and interoperable, required to move forward. The shortage isn't in the mines. It's not in the vaults. It's in the gap between a signature and a statute, between a bill of lading and a court's recognition of it, between we hold it and we legally own it, unencumbered, across borders. And that gap is now wide enough to stall trillions. So those 42 rejected bars in Frankfurt? They weren't an anomaly. They were the first tremor in a fault line running straight through global finance. Because gold doesn't just sit in vaults. It moves daily as collateral, as settlement, as reserve backing. And every single movement depends on one thing: title affirmation. Not once a year, not at audit time, daily. That's the reality of gold-backed repo markets worth $3.10 trillion globally. In those markets, institutions borrow cash overnight, pledging gold as security. But the next morning, that gold must be re-verified. Its title reaffirmed. Its lien status confirmed. If verification stalls even for 48 hours, the system triggers automatic margin calls. No discretion, no negotiation, just code, contract, and consequence. And when margin calls hit, institutions don't sell gold. They sell what's liquid: government bonds, equities, foreign exchange. Fire sales: sudden, synchronized, destabilizing. Now look at the numbers the ECB itself published. In its May 19 Financial Stability Review, the bank stated that 33% of Q1 2025 gold production faced sourcing and transport delays. Not mining delays, not refinery bottlenecks. Sourcing and transport delays, meaning title verification couldn't keep pace with physical flow. Then overlay Bloomberg's June 11 finding. Gold now represents 20% of global foreign reserves, $2.40 trillion. That means 33% of gold production delayed times 20% of global reserves dependent on that gold equals a $2.40 trillion reserve accounting crisis waiting to activate. Because central banks don't just hold gold. They report it, they revalue it, they pledge it against sovereign liabilities. Every one of those actions requires clean, current, cross-jurisdictionally recognized title. A single unverifiable bar in Germany's reserve ledger forces a delay in the entire quarterly reconciliation, triggering audit flags and covenant breaches. That's the domino no one saw coming. Title verification failure, right-pointing arrow repo margin calls, right-pointing arrow fire sales of liquid assets, right-pointing arrow dollar liquidity squeeze. This isn't a gold problem. It's an infrastructure problem. Gold is physically abundant. It's legally fragmented. And functionally at the scale required by modern finance, it's incomplete. The $3.10 trillion repo market doesn't fail because gold is scarce. It seizes because title affirmation is slow and ownership unverifiable across borders. The $2.40 trillion reserve system doesn't wobble because gold is impure. It strains for the same reason. That's the brutal symmetry. The asset designed to stabilize the system is now its most fragile node, not because of geopolitics or supply chains, but because its legal passport doesn't clear customs.